This is video 9.7, and I'm going to be discussing and retelling the tales of Virgil the Aeneid. So, with Aeneas just got himself out of Troy, he now starts on his wandering adventures. Virgil's adventures are told quite differently from Homer's, and it's really important to notice these differences. First of all of his stories are mappable. They're specifically located on real geographical places that we can point to on the map. Let's start off with Troy. We know exactly where that is. The legendary place of it helped guide to where we should have looked. The first place they go and stop after their escape from the burning Troy is a place called Thrace. Thrace is up in the northern part of the area of the great extent of Greece. It's well known for being a little bit wild and strange in Greek custom. The first adventure that they have there leads them to a rather spooky scene at Thrace, which is right near Troy. Aeneas then locates the body of Polydorus. You'll recall from reading that the suggestion is talked about where Polydorus comes from. He was Priam's son who was entrusted to the king of Thrace during the Trojan War with a hefty ransom. But after Troy fell, the king just decided that he would go ahead and take the ransom and kill Polydorus. So Polydorus is there under awful circumstances, buried underground. And he starts spouting off oracles. Oracles that come from the dead, so-called necromancy, are things that are well known but very, very understood to be spooky and weird in ancient Rome. It's not a normal way of getting oracles, just to put it that way. When they hear this, though, they decide that it's time for them to move on and that this isn't a good place to start their city. Aeneas and the boys hop on the ship and off they go, and the next place they land is Delos. Now, Delos is a well-known and famous place for Apollo's oracles. Delphi has a very rich tradition. Delso also has one, but both of them are anchored in the Greek past. Delphi, though, is more central. Again, a very famous and well-respected Greek place and an oracle shrine. But not the main one of Apollo, which in long tradition turns out to be Delphi. We now know Delos, of course, from a Homeric hymn too, Apollo. So the oracle there tells them that they should see where the Trojans first came from. The idea is that there is some early ancestral land out there where Troy needs to be reestablished. Virgil's giving us a story in which the ancestral home of Troy is actually Rome, so it has the role of being the original spot of this whole race. So then Delos says, go find your background. And through that message and with what's happening here, there's a refounding of how originary the kingdom of Rome is. From Delos they head off thinking that they're going to look for an ancient place that could have been the background of Troy. So they head off to Crete. Crete was well known, as we've mentioned, mythologically as a very ancient place, and if we're looking for some ancestral home, it might as well have been there. So they go and they start their building, and they're building their walls, and they lay out their plans, and then something bad happens. So at Crete, they're getting started on the building of the city, and there's this pestilence that appears, and an awful plague visits the men, and they fall down sick, and then the household gods appear to him in a dream. These gods tell him that it's not time for you to be here, but somewhere else, and that you've got to move on. It's actually in Italy, so go there. So at this point now, Virgil and his mates know what to do, and they head off. They have to stop at the island of Harpies in Shaphides and show up there on the western edge of Greece. These harpies are nasty, well-known beasts that show up in famous breezes and other artistic representations. These things have wings that come down and just spoil all your food. So in this way, all the men were going to be undernourished. They also hear a nasty oracle there from the mean harpy Seleno that they won't find Rome until they eat their tables. They're going to be so hungry that they just decide to go ahead and eat their tables. And the prophecy is fulfilled in Book 7, when they realize that the bread platters that they were using to hold up their food is actually what Harpy was referring to. So they get up and they go, and they travel right past Ithaca, and then they go to Canua in northern Greece. And on the Adriatic side of this town, that's where we hear the story of Andromache, who was Hector's wife. And she was abducted by a man named Pyrrhus, a son of Achilles, after the Trojan War and taken to the land of Canoia. Then Pyrrhus dies, and Helenus, who is son of Priam and another one of Pyrrhus's captains, inherits the kingdom. So we now have a new kind of Troy that's been found here by Canoia.